Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon. Melech, Malachei Amlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech, Malachei Amlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Nil Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech, Malachei Amlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Zeitchem l'shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon. Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's wonderful to be back together for another Shabbat, and so great to join together in community, whether we're here in our sanctuary or joining together, as I like to say, through the magic of the internet. And really, we come into Shabbat, which we'll talk more about throughout our service, and we begin every Shabbat by lighting our Shabbat candles. This is that moment where we not only light the candles out of a practical reason, that we want to have light to be able to see back in the days when we relied on candles during Shabbat, because we couldn't kindle light, we couldn't light a fire on Shabbat, but we also do it now symbolically to bring in that spirit of light, of or, of goodness into the world on this day of Shabbat. And so to light our candles and to lead us in Kiddush, I invite forward Linda Kussmer and her grandson Daniel to lead us. You can turn to pages 120 and 121 in our prayer book for this prayer. If you have a prayer book that has two sets of page numbers at the bottom, we'll be following along in the blue numbers in the brackets. Page 120, 121.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we be our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
And we join together in the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. In the English.
Amen.
Okay.
And if all of you can turn to page 123
You don't want to do it.
in your prayer books, on the previous page, we have the English introduction that will be read very shortly. And then we will all sing the Kiddushat Hayom, which is the Kiddush in the diminutive. Those of you online, if you have your prayer books, page 123, and if you can all please stand. And when we stand, we are raising ourselves to a higher place of holiness. We're removing ourselves from the mundane week that we experienced and raising ourselves to this holy 25 hours that we celebrate and observe on the Shabbat. And we hear now the ordination of the Shabbat through the English translation of the Torah.
And there was evening was morning the sixth day, and heaven and earth were finished in all its array. On the seventh day God finished the work that God had been doing, and God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done.
And now we sing together as a community of the Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kireshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodesho be'ahavav ratzon yirchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit, ki hu yom etechidot mikroe kodesh, zecher letziot mitzrayim, kivanu v'choto ve'otanu kidashka mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'veratzon inechaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh Shabbat. And we say together, Shabbat Shalom, L'chaim. L'chaim, because life is good, of course. So please be seated.
So, this is the spot where we would do our Devar Torah, our drash. But because this Devar Torah, or this Torah portion, contains one of the prayers we say, we're going to actually push it off a little bit and do it when we get to that prayer so that we can all talk about it and look at it together. But still, to bring us into this spirit of Shabbat and this moment of prayer and community, I offer this reading on page 124. May the door of the synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. And so we welcome in the Sabbath bride with the Chadodi on page 138.
L'chadoti likra kala, b'nei Shabbat l'kabela. L'chadoti likra kala, b'nei Shabbat l'kabela. Mor zachor b'dibur echad, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשמו תפארת ולתהילה. לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת תקבלה. לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת תקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, עם מקור הברכה, בראש מקדם נסוכה, מעשה במחשבה תחילה. Stand please, לך תודי לקראת כלה, face the back, בני שבת נקבלה, as we welcome in the Shabbat bride. לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך תודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
We remain standing as we turn to page 146 for our call to worship, the Baruch Hu.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך, אדוני המבורך, המבורך לעולם ועד. המבורך, המבורך לעולם ועד.
We join in the Hebrew of Ma'ariv Aravim on page 148. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro Ma'ariv Aravim, b'chokhma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishanei itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umsader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem b'arkia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil ben yom uvein layla, Adonai tzevaot shemo, el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch alenu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. And on page 150, we join together in the English. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael, page 152.
And as we prepare for the Shema, we open the doors to welcome in the Shabbat, but along with that, we open what we call the Nefesh Yetera, the extra portion of soul that is representative of the two chalot, the two challahs that we eat on Shabbat, the two candles, the third, of course, recognizing that our hostages are still yet to be released from their captors, but the two larger candles which represent the dualism of Shabbat. And part of that is that when that door opened and the Shabbat was brought in here, along with it was your extra portion of soul that comes with those 25 hours. And with the dousing of the Havdalah candle at the end of the Shabbat, that part of you is released back into the universe, only to be brought back once again when those doors are open the next week. And so, to prepare ourselves to enhance that extra portion of soul that we've now acquired at this time, let's just pause for a moment. Just be still. Before we say the Shema, the watchword, the words of our faith, we think for a minute, we quiet ourselves, and we contemplate and welcome that part of our soul back into our bodies. And now with that, we sing together the Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kivod Malechuto Le'olam Va'ed. And please be seated.
On page 154, we chant together the Ve'ahavta.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavecha uvechol nafshecha uvechol me'odecha ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam בשבתך בביתך וברכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לעוד על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Emet.
In the middle of page 157, we read responsively. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day. Nations will be at one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Page 158.
כמוך, או אלים אדוני, מי כמוך, נטל בקודש, נורא תגילו, הים לפני משה מים זלי אנו בים אדוניים לו לעולם ועד אדוניים לו לעולם ועד לעולם ועד לעולם ועד.
And we turn now to page 162, and we continue with the words of Vishamru in celebration of Shabbat.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, לעשות את השבת רדורתם ברית עולם. שמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, לדורותם ברית עולם. בני ובן בני ישראל אותי לעולם, כששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, לדורותם ברית עולם. בני ובן בני ישראל אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת נפש, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש.
So, I mentioned that one of our prayers happens to be in this week's Torah portion. And Vishamru, which we just sang, does indeed come from Ki Tisa. Comes from, if you actually look down at the bottom of your prayer book, you can see at the bottom it gives you the note on page 162 that Vishamru comes from Exodus chapter 31, verses 16 and 17. And it's here in Ki Tisa that we have these words. And yet Shabbat appears multiple times throughout the entire Torah, actually going all the way back to the very beginning. And yet I think sometimes we forget what Shabbat is really about. And so this evening, I'm going to do something a little bit different. And instead of just tell you what Shabbat is about, I want to hear from you first to tell me what Shabbat is about. So I'll come down so I can hear you all a little bit better. So someone want to say, like, what is Shabbat? Anyone want to give it a try? Yes. It's a day of rest. Absolutely. In the most simple way to put it, Shabbat is a day of rest. Even the word Shabbat means to basically like sit, to rest, to relax. And yet it is also so much more. So anyone else want to add on? What is Shabbat? Yes?
Day of reflection.
Day of reflection. Absolutely. Was that the ones in the hand? Okay. Yes, Susie.
Gathering together to say and sing the Shabbat blessings together.
Absolutely. Gathering together in community to say the blessings. Pause. It's a day of pause, or it's a pause. Absolutely. Oh, over here. Yes. Either one of you.
Be with family, be with friends, and try and do things that are different from the rest of the week.
Day of family and friends and do something different from the rest of the week. Absolutely. Pause from the mundane of the week. And indeed, we often talk about that term holy, and the opposite of holy is actually that word mundane. Linda. Absolutely, it is a commandment, and to some extent, that's the one that I think we often forget. Oh, I've got a hand way in the back. I'll come on back. Hey, I got getting my steps in for sure. What is Shabbat? A day of peace, absolutely. That word shalom, that day of peace, is something of also wholeness, of quiet, of calmness, absolutely. Time for a nap. Norman. Taste of the world to come, absolutely. Shabbat is all of these things. And yet, when I ask, if I were to have changed the question and said, why do we celebrate Shabbat? You might have answered it very differently. But ultimately, it actually does come back to exactly what, Linda, you said. Why do we celebrate Shabbat? Because it's a commandment. Because it's what Jews do. It's one of our most sacred, holy, and central obligations. And so, that then leads to more of the question, which you all were sort of answering, of what do we do on Shabbat? What is it that Shabbat means for all of us? And so, what I'm going to invite you to do is open your prayer book if you didn't already, if you happen to close it, back to page 162. And let's take a little bit of a look at this prayer and see what insights we might glean from what we might do. And so, if we look at these words, the Vishamru, we're going to focus mostly on the English here. If we look at the English of the prayer, we can divide the verses, and that's the place to start. The first two lines of English. The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat, observing Shabbat throughout the ages as a covenant for all time. That's verse 16. And that essentially is the heart of what Linda was saying, of why we keep Shabbat. Because God told us to. And if we want to be in relationship with God, if we want to be in covenant with something divine, with something greater than just ourselves, then we need to, as Vishamru would say, observe or protect or guard Shabbat. And not only now, but for all time. But then it's that second verse, those next 3 lines, where I think it gets really interesting, where I think we can learn a lot. Oftentimes, especially in some versions of the Vishamru that we sing, we divide it into 3 sections. The first being, it is a sign for all time between me, meaning God, and the people of Israel. A sign for all time between me, God, and the people of Israel. From that, what might we learn that we're supposed to do on Shabbat? Some of you already said it, I think. There are multiple options there, but what might you say? Yes. Connect with God. How might we do that? Shout out any ideas. Praising God, praying to God, praying in general. A commitment, study, absolutely. Saying thank you, gratitude, absolutely. Light candles, absolutely. Gather together, absolutely. We're going to come back to that in a moment. How about maybe go outside and walk through nature? Appreciate God's creation, appreciate the world around us. There are lots of ways to connect with God. And yet, what's the other aspect here in this first line that isn't about God? The people of Israel, not individually, but communally. And so, in addition to connecting with God, Shabbat is about connecting with the Jewish people, with your identity as a Jew. And most of those things that you just said of ways of connecting with God is also ways of connecting with the Jewish people. And yet the heart of it ultimately comes down to what many of you also said in that first question, that what is Shabbat about? Connections with family and friends, coming together to say prayers, not just doing them on your own, but being in community. And so, in a way, that first line of, it is a sign for all time between me and the people Israel, is encapsulated in at least one way by a Chad Ha'am, which down on the other side of your page, one of my absolutely favorite quotes in our prayer book and from Jewish tradition. More than the Jewish people has kept Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jewish people. Again, it's that obligation that draws us together. But let's come to part 2, the fourth line, second from the bottom. For in 6 days Adonai made heaven and earth. Why is it talking about heaven and earth here? I know you know this. Why do we celebrate Shabbat? Not only because it's commanded, but because commemorates the act of creation. The reason why God commands that specific day, the 7th day, to be the day of rest is because for 6 days God created, and on the 7th God rested. And so, while Shabbat is meant to be a day of rest for us, more important is that it's a day of rest for God. And that means, on Shabbat, we pay attention to the works of creation. What might you think, what might you draw into that we can learn for what we're supposed to do on Shabbat that pays attention to the works of creation? Appreciate nature. Create challah. I love it.
Maybe walk in the garden, walk outside, and look and see what God created.
Walk outside, see what God created. I heard someone. Appreciate life. Absolutely. Gathering here in the synagogue. I think this one is a little bit trickier because it is a little bit more abstract. In a way, we can think of this as we go from doing creation and actually using creation to being a part of creation. It might not be the day on which we go ahead and we say, okay, I'm going to spend all of Shabbat volunteering sundown to sundown. But it might be the day on which you, as someone said, reflect on how you can be a part of the creation of the world in the way that you want it to be. In another one of our prayers, we talk about the daily acts of creation. Because the world, again, another one of our prayers, the world wasn't created. We're still creating it. Now let's come to the final one, number 3. And on the 7th day, God ceased from work and was refreshed. It's that last word that I really want to focus on. Vayinafash. And actually, Cantor, not too long ago, said the word in another phrase, the nefesh yetera. Vayinafash, which is translated here as to be refreshed, comes from that word nefesh, which might mean soul or breath. And so, when we talk about Shabbat as a day of rest, it's not about necessarily, sitting on your favorite chair and doing nothing all day long. That's not the point of Shabbat. The point of that rest is to, perhaps I might put it, be ensouled, or to breathe so that you can then do. And I'm going to end with another reading from our prayer book that is one of my absolute favorites here. It's actually a poem by Judy Brown. And if you want to follow along, you can turn to page 225, or you're welcome to just listen. What makes a fire burn is the space between the logs, a breathing space. Too much of a good thing, too many logs packed in too tight can douse the flames almost as surely as a pail of water would. So building fires requires attention to the spaces in between as much as to the wood. When we are able to build open spaces in the same way we have learned to pile on the logs, then we can come to see how it is fuel and the absence of fuel together that make the fire possible. We only need to lay a log lightly from time to time. A fire grows simply because the space is there, with openings in which the flame that knows just how it wants to burn can find its way. And so as we sing one more time, Vishamru, I invite you to take that big deep breath and breathe in the spirit of Shabbat.
בני ישראל, אותי לגורלם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ובים, השביעי שבת וינפש וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. שבת וינפש.
And I invite you to rise as we turn to page 164 for our Amidah, the Tefillah.
Adonai, sifatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Page 166. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei v'neihem, Lema'an Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer, Umoshiach Umagen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, V'ezrat Sarah, page 168. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atarav lehoshia, Mashiva ruach umorid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim ve'rofeh chorim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato rishenei afar, Micha mocha ba'al gevurot, Umido meroch, Melech memit umechayeh, Umatz mi'ach Yeshua, V'ne'eman ata lachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Page 170. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom, Yahalaluhu chasela, Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
You may be seated. And we turn in our prayer books to page 179. As we turn now our hearts and our thoughts together as we read and offer this prayer for peace. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Yisrael, bashalom. And we turn now as we offer a prayer for the state of Israel. Avinu shebashamayim sur Yisrael v'goalo barech et medinat Yisrael. Reshit smichat geulatenu. O Heavenly One, protector and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Grant them deliverance and adorn them in a mantle of victory. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. And together we say, Amen. And so too do we offer a prayer for those still being held captive. for our siblings, our brothers, our sisters, the entire family of Israel, all who are in the midst of distress or taken into captivity, whether on sea or on land. May the ever-present One have compassion for them and bring them out from suffering to relief, from darkness to light, from oppression to redemption, now, swiftly, and soon. And together we say, Amen. And we turn our hearts and our thoughts to those in our community, our friends, our loved ones, those who are in need of healing and wholeness of body, of mind, and of spirit. And if you are thinking of someone who is in need of these prayers of healing, I invite you now to please rise. And together as one, we share these names with our community. We take all of those names into our hearts, adding them to our prayer as we join together in singing Mishaberach, our prayer for healing.
May the source of strength bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. We share Haberata la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with the refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
Take a moment for silent and personal prayer.
Shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom b'yomah, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom b'yomah, Yaseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
I think you just want to be happy. I think you do. If I sing, you won't be happy.
I won't be happy?
Right.
I'm happy I'm here.
You're very sweet. You too.
Make everybody happy. Speak. Go.
Yeah, okay, I will. Good evening. We're having a whole service right here. It's been fun. It's been wonderful. Good evening. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm Helene Sherman, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees for the Temple. We want to thank Susan and Sandy Becker and Arlene Goodman for sponsoring tonight's dessert oneg, and to those who baked and provided goodies. So after services, there's something to eat. Very nice. Tomorrow at UH will be Torah study at 9 o'clock in the chapel or on Zoom, and Family Shabbat morning service in the Millstone Sanctuary and live stream. Then there's Thanksgiving. As you've heard, that's a new program that was established to honor you, our congregants. If you are celebrating a birthday, anniversary, or other special simcha, you are encouraged to make a donation to UH that is equal to the number of years you are celebrating. In addition to sponsoring a nash or an oneg, that is an opportunity for you to allow United Hebrew to help you honor yourself and your family. There are several upcoming events to let you know about that are going to be wonderful. On March 8th at 6:30, there'll be a Shabbat Alive with Rick Recht. He's a very wonderful, wonderful man. And for Purim, a lot is going on, of course, so be sure to order your Purim bags for your family, friends, and even to UH. There are several different options you can choose from for purchasing the bags, and please note that the orders and payments are paid by Sunday, March 10th. On Wednesday, the 13th, at 6 o'clock, there's Humatash and Bake, followed by Whiskey and Wisdom, a great combination. Saturday, on March 23rd, 7 o'clock, is the Adult Purim Social and the Megillah reading at 8 o'clock. So a lot going on. And Sunday, March 24th, is the Purim Spiel and the Purim Carnival, 10:45 and 11:30. And those are memories that we never lose, those kinds of days. On Friday, March 29th at 6:30, there'll be a Disney Shabbat. So that should be very interesting. For information on additional upcoming classes and programs, please visit the UH website. And thank you, as always, to our wonderful tech team for making it possible for all of us to be together virtually tonight and every service. Please check our website or call the office for the gift shop hours. Shabbat Shalom for everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Before we get to birthdays, just one other announcement that didn't make our sheet. This Sunday, 5 p.m., there is a community program here at United Hebrew Congregation, Courage Under Fire. It is a discussion with Ron Harir, who is an IDF soldier who was injured in the days after October 7th. And that, again, will be 5 p.m. here at United Hebrew, a community program, and we hope that you will join us. And then I know there were thanks for our sponsors tonight, but I specifically want to call out a thank you to, Susan and Sandy Becker in honor of Norman Wolf's 99th birthday, which we'll also call out in a minute. Seems like you just turned 90. And Arlene Goodman in loving memory of Stan Towerman's 94th birthday, which would have been on the 16th of March. And so, thank you. And we come to our birthday blessings. We have some names, 3 names of those celebrating birthdays in March. Once we call your name, we ask you to rise for that blessing. And if we don't have your name up here, we have you rise for that blessing.
London Weller, on March 12th, will be observing a birthday. Please stand up. Yes, thank you.
And we have, having, I believe, just celebrated on February 23rd, Charlie Gravitt. There we go.
And on March 31st, at the end of this month, Norman Wolf will be 99 years old.
And Linda Kussmer.
Linda Kussmer is celebrating a birthday. She won't be 99 years old.
Well, then you can stand up, right? Are you okay standing up? Oh, okay, good. Stand up. Everyone stand. Linda,
Stan
stand up.
Schwartz.
Good.
And as we celebrate these birthdays in late February and in March, we offer these words of blessing.
Yehi darkechem mivorach. May your way be blessed.
Ya'er alechem or hachochma. May wisdom's light shine upon you.
Yitain lachem masechem shalom. And may your journey throughout life bring you the gift of peace. And to that we all say, Amen.
Amen.
And
Now
we
stay
add-
standing.
And we add to that blessing, Ad Mea Ve'esrim, may each of you live to be 120, just as Moses lived to be 120. And now we invite our congregation to turn to page 586 and to please rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu nishabeach la'adon hakol, na'teit gedula liotzer bereshit, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 591, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. And we turn in our prayer books to page 597. And our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. When we think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. This Shabbat, the heartfelt condolences of our congregation go out to the family of Ron Carter. We are in the period of Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning for Mark Berger, Linda Myers, and Betty Polinsky. This week, this Shabbat, we observe the yahrzeits and we lovingly remember Michael J. Bauer, Nathan Berger, Molly Berry, Morris Birnbaum, Joseph Bomsey, Lawrence Brett Snyder, Frank Cohen, Carrie Marcus Davis, Diane E. Ezel, Marvin Feldman, Marvin Meyer Feldman, Ben Fox, Gordon August Freeberger, Albert Friedman, Martin Friedman, Nathan Nappy Friedman, David Gers, Charles Ginsberg, Jacob Glazer, Greg Goldman, Ruth M. Goldman, Sana Guggenheim, Alfred Isidore Harris, Anna Heiken, Lily Hirschfield, Laurie Ritzlin Jurek, Sherwood R. Kleban, Philip Kootman, Ida Coplin, Betty Slapak Krantz, Mike Cutton, Cheryl Lauder, Max Lending, George Levin, Louis Lurie, Elizabeth Leiner, Hannah Mandel, Solomon Meyer, Thelma Myers, Julius Nadler, Ann Neufeld, Samuel Niederberg, Bernadine E. Neiman, Joan Frank Plattner, Eileen Polinsky, Rachel Portnoy, Harris B. Richter, Sadie Rickensall, Jack Rosenblum, Etta Rothman, Dr. Arthur A. Rufa, Esther Rose Satz, Paul Satz, Sam Schneider, Mildred Roman Schnorr, Toby Sellner, Max Sigel, Sophie Silver, Max Silverman, Alvin J. Silverman, Jan Lee Silverman, Evelyn Silverstein, Mark P. Silverstone, Molly Stein, Esther Steinberg, Annette Mabel Sussman, Leah Rosenblum Tabak, June Finn Triner, Mary K. Turkin, Gertrude Berman Vittert, Dr. Stanford S. Waldman, Herman C. Waldman, Shirley Wallerstein, Joseph S. Wasserman, Stanley H. Wilansky, Yetta G. Wolf, Evelyn S. Werdak. If one of these loved ones is yours, we invite you to rise so that we may recognize the memory of your loved one. Zichrono livracha, may their memories be a blessing. And I now invite everyone to rise and stand with our mourners for Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, which can be found on page 598. Yit Gadal ve'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divra chirute ve'amlich malchute, B'chayechon uvyomechon, Uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imru Amen. Yehe Shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam omei omaya, Yit barach ve'yishtabach ve'yit pa'ar ve'yit romam ve'yit naseh, ve'yit hadar ve'yit haleh ve'yit halal shemei dekudashar barechu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma ve'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. And as we've come together on this Shabbat, so too, although at the end of our service we welcome our guests, the adult Sunday school class from Bonham Presbyterian Church, we are so glad that you are here with us on this Shabbat. And at the end of our service, I invite you forward down to the front of our sanctuary, and Cantor Eicher will be here to speak with all of you. And on this Shabbat, as we come to those words of Vishamru in the Torah, this reminder of the covenant that is between God and the people of Israel, and so too this recognition of Israel as community, as a people, and that not only do we rest, not only do we celebrate, but it is all about community, remembering that we are a people and that together as a people, we live under God and live with God. And we close with the words, Am Yisrael Chai, the people of Israel lives.
Amen, Amen, Am Yisrael Chai, Amen, Amen, Am Yisrael Chai, Amen, Am Yisrael Chai, Amen, Amen, Am Yisrael Chai, oh, Davinu Chai, oh, Davinu Chai, oh, Davinu Chai, oh, Davinu Chai, Amen, Amen, Amen Yisrael 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 Chai, oh, Davinu Chai, oh, Davinu Chai, oh, Davinu Chai, oh, Davinu Chai, everybody, Amen, Amen Yisrael Chai, Amen, Amen, Amen Yisrael Chai, Amen, Amen, Amen Yisrael Chai, Amen, Amen, Amen Yisrael Chai, oh, Davinu Chai, oh, Davinu Chai, oh, Davinu Chai, oh, Davinu Chai, Amen, Amen, Amen Yisrael 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 Chai.
Shabbat Shalom.